Today we will learn how to authenticate our Rails application using Sorcery. Sorcery is a stripped down bare bones authentication library with which you can write your own authentication flow. To begin, we'll create our Rails application and run bundle add sorcery to add the gem file to our gem file. Once that is done, we can run Rails and Rails generate sorcery install to install sorcery. Sorcery also generates a user model for us, and you can see right here it adds authenticates with sorcery to our user model. Next, we want to create our database and run our migration, and we can simply do that using Rails DB prepare. You can see it creates, if we look at our migration here, you can see our user migration is created with the user with the email, encrypted password, and salt. So our next step is to generate our controller, which we'll use for our user model. So we can run Rails generate scaffold controller. I want it for user. We want email of type string. We want encrypted password of type string. We want our salt, which is just, these are the attributes here, of type string. And with that, we can have a look at our user's controller. You can see all our CRUD actions have been created. And right down here for our parameters, you can see we have encrypted password and salt. We're going to change this and use virtual attributes here in a sense. And we don't want the user to be able to have access to this directly. So you can change this to password and password confirmation. And save this here. And also our user's form was also generated for us. You can see here that you have the encrypted password and salt in the text field. We want this to be a password field. And we'll change this to password and password confirmation. Our next step is we'll update our routes. We don't have a route page here, so we'll change this to users. And one more step here, we want to add some validations to our user. So first of all, we want our email address to be unique. Uniqueness, and we set that to true. Next, we also want to validate the password length. And we need to change this to length. We'll say the minimum. I want the minimum to be 8. And we'll also check if it's new record. We'll say new record, or there are changes. And we'll set encrypted password. And copy this again. We'll be using this validation here again. And then we can do, you want to validate our password and our confirmation. Oops. Our confirmation. I want this to be true if, let me paste this once more again. Furthermore, we also want to validate our password confirmation, rather our password confirmation. I want its presence to be true. And you can save this here. Oops, this should be this. So with that, we can start up our server. You can see our new users with our form here. So we can go ahead and try to create a new form, or rather a new user. And let's just say user1@gmail.com. You can see our record was created. But it seems we made a typo somewhere. So if we go to our console, let's say user.first encrypted password. There we go. That means if we go to our controller, let's go to users controller first of all. Everything's good here. So we go to our show page. Here we're running out our user. We look at it here. We have our encrypted password. We change that there. If we look at it here, you can see our user, our encrypted password, and our salt. You can see here the encryption is done using bcrypt by default. So our next step is to create a way for our users to be able to sign in and sign out. That is through the user session. So we go ahead and run Rails generate controller user sessions, and we want a new create and destroy actions. So with that, we can go to our user session controller. We have our actions right here. We have our new create and destroy. So for our create right here, we want to set our user to be equals to login. This method is provided by Sorcery. You can see logged in, logged out, login. You can see it takes the email and password. You can also set remember me to true or false. So we want to get the the email and password from the params. So you can say email and params password. And if this user is valid, let's say we can do redirect to root path. So notice you have logged in. Else, could use a flash and we're saying set alerts to login failed. And then we render new once more. To log out, we use a destroy action and can simply use the logout method provided by Sorcery. We can do redirect to root path and set a notice to you have logged out. So our next step is to create the forms, or rather create the views for our sessions, our user sessions. So we look at views, our user sessions. You have our create, destroy, and new. So you can create a new file. We'll call this form.html.urb. And here we could do create our form, and this will use form with, and we'll use a URL, and we'll call this login path. With the post method. And here we could do email, and we could also use password. So we could say password email. And we could do placeholder email placeholder password. And then you can come to our new here. You can simply say login render form. You can simply add a link to back, and you could say let's link this to our user's path. So with that, we can update our routes. We want to have a get login path. For user sessions new. And we'll give this a name. We set it the name previously to login path. So we'll say login. Login. Next, you want our post. So user sessions create. And finally, we want to post again for our log out, which will map to user sessions destroy. So we have all of this here right now. Let's add some links to these pages. So we can go to our application.html. We could do it right here. We could create a partial for it and use our nav. But we'll do it right here. We could do if we have a current user, that is if a user is already signed in, and link to log out. And we'll use log out, and we'll set the method to post. And we could do else if we don't have a current user. We do link to log in, and then that'll be login path. Or you just simply do login, and then we could do link to sign up, and that'll be our new user path. So if we save this, we come back here, we refresh it, you can see we have our login, our sign up. So we click on back, it takes us here. So you can see our login right here. And that's because it didn't work because I forgot to add a submit button. So you could do submit. You can do that. And you can see we have logged in right now. We have a new user session. And we click log out once again. No route matches log out. 1 second. Let's have a look at our routes. Log out, user sessions destroy. Let's have a look here in our application HTML. And the simple error here is we forgot to give this a name here. So as log out. Come back here. Log out. Well, we could, to enable us to log out, we could come here and change this to a button to instead of a link to. And then we go, we're able to log out. So that is all for authentication with Sorcery. There are other things that we could do. We could add before callback actions, but for now we'll just focus on this.